In May 2016, the body of a young woman was found in Tampa with signs of a violent death. The investigation soon led to shocking revelations, exposing the darker sides of her personal life. In 2015, 28-year-old Jamal Turner, an IT specialist in Tampa, Florida, had everything a man could want: a promising career, stability, and a good reputation in his field. However, despite his professional success, Jamal struggled with his personal life. He had always been more focused on his work than on dating, making it difficult for him to form lasting romantic connections. His friends often told him that he needed to take more risks in love, but Jamal was cautious, preferring a quieter, more methodical approach to relationships. Then, during a networking event in late 2014, Jamal met Brianna King, a 25-year-old aspiring social media influencer. Brianna was everything Jamal wasn't: confident, outgoing, and charismatic. She had a strong presence on Instagram, where she posted glamorous photos from exotic vacations and high-end events. Brianna's carefree attitude and social media success were magnetic, and Jamal, who had always been more reserved, found himself drawn to her energy. Over the next few months, their relationship progressed quickly. Brianna's charm and confidence seemed to complement Jamal's calm and thoughtful nature. She encouraged him to step outside his comfort zone, while Jamal's stability grounded her. Within 6 months, they were married. To Jamal, it felt like the perfect match: a beautiful woman who seemed to appreciate his ambition and a stable future ahead. His friends were shocked by how fast things were moving. "You sure about this?" his best friend, Tyrone Phillips, asked. "This is happening really fast." But Jamal shrugged off the concerns, convinced he had found the one. The wedding, held in the spring of 2015, was modest but full of promise. Jamal was excited about the future, believing that their marriage marked the beginning of a shared life. Brianna, too, appeared to be fully committed. To her, however, marriage wasn't about love, it was a strategic move. Brianna had always sought relationships with men who could offer her financial security and a luxurious lifestyle. Jamal, in her eyes, was simply the next in a long line of men who could help her maintain the lifestyle she desired. What Jamal didn't know was that Brianna was already involved with other men. She had 3 separate relationships on the side, each man serving a different purpose in her life. Marcus Harris, a 35-year-old real estate agent, offered her financial support. Kelvin Reed, a 38-year-old personal trainer, kept her in shape and showered her with gifts. And Darius Walker, a 32-year-old nightclub promoter, introduced her to Tampa's elite social scene. None of these men knew about each other, and none were aware of Brianna's marriage to Jamal. Jamal, on the other hand, trusted Brianna completely. He believed in their marriage and thought it was the foundation of a bright future. He was proud of her success on social media, often boasting about her accomplishments to his friends. Brianna, for her part, played the role of a supportive wife. She praised Jamal for his hard work and dedication, and he was convinced that their bond was genuine. Initially, Jamal didn't think much of the minor red flags, but then the credit card bills arrived. Expensive dinners and boutique purchases appeared, items Jamal hadn't approved. When he confronted Brianna, she explained it away, insisting it was all for her business or social media. Jamal, unwilling to jump to conclusions, let it go. But the inconsistencies kept piling up. Brianna's phone was constantly buzzing with texts and notifications, and she often became defensive when Jamal asked who she was talking to. One evening, Jamal noticed a new bracelet on her wrist, a piece of jewelry he had never seen before. When he asked about it, Brianna casually brushed it off, claiming it was a gift from work. One day, Jamal confided in his best friend, Tyrone Phillips. Tyrone had been skeptical of Brianna from the start, always wary of her intentions. "Man, I don't know. Something's off about her," Tyrone had told Jamal when they first met Brianna. But Jamal had dismissed his concerns, choosing to believe in the future he envisioned with her. Now, however, the cracks were starting to show, and he couldn't ignore them any longer. "Man, she's been acting weird lately," Jamal admitted. "I don't know if I'm just being paranoid, but I feel like she's hiding something." Tyrone's expression hardened. He had always been protective of Jamal and didn't trust Brianna's motives. "Look, Man, you've got to either confront her or get some proof. Hire a private investigator if you have to. I don't trust her, and you shouldn't either. Confronting her directly, especially without clear evidence, felt like an unnecessary escalation. I don't want to jump to conclusions, Jamal replied. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. But deep down, Jamal's instincts were telling him something different. The small inconsistencies, the lies, and the increasing distance in their relationship were beginning to paint a picture he wasn't ready to see. Still, he didn't know how to approach the situation. What if he was wrong? What if he misread the signs? Jamal was torn, unwilling to believe the worst in Brianna, but unable to ignore the growing doubts gnawing at him. Meanwhile, Brianna continued to live her double life without suspicion. To Jamal, she was the busy but devoted wife, building her career and staying active in their shared life. But behind his back, Brianna was managing relationships with other men, 3 men to be exact. Each one was unaware of the others, and each served a different purpose in her carefully crafted world. Marcus Harris, a 35-year-old real estate agent, provided Brianna with the financial support she needed to maintain the lifestyle she craved. He didn't mind spending money on Brianna. In fact, he enjoyed spoiling her. She painted herself as an aspiring entrepreneur, always needing more funds for her business ventures, which in reality were just excuses for more shopping, dining, and travel. Marcus never questioned her, believing that he was helping her achieve her dreams. Calvin Reed, a 38-year-old personal trainer, was another fixture in Brianna's life. Calvin kept her in top physical shape and indulged her with gifts, often treating her to expensive workouts, trendy athleisure, and personal fitness sessions. Brianna played up her love for fitness, presenting herself as a dedicated gym-goer who wanted to improve her health. Calvin was flattered by her attention and felt special to be a part of her life, unaware that Brianna was also married to Jamal. Darius Walker, a 32-year-old nightclub promoter, introduced Brianna to Tampa's high society and nightlife scene. Darius enjoyed the thrill of being with someone as glamorous as Brianna and treated her to nights out at exclusive clubs, VIP access to events, and extravagant dinners. To Darius, Brianna was a free spirit who didn't want the constraints of a conventional relationship. He was comfortable with the open, non-committal nature of their arrangement and was happy to provide Brianna with all the excitement she could ask for. Brianna thrived on the attention from these men, expertly managing the facade of each relationship. She used them to boost her self-esteem, manipulate their emotions, and secure her financial and social standing. Each man believed he was her most significant other, while she carefully curated a separate identity for each of them. She was skilled at lying, always quick with an excuse or distraction whenever anyone began to question her behavior. To them, she was the woman of their dreams. Smart, ambitious, beautiful, and completely devoted. One night, Jamal came home earlier than expected and found Brianna on the phone with Marcus. As he listened from the other room, Brianna's voice was sweet, almost flirtatious, as she made plans to meet Marcus later in the week. Jamal's heart sank as he recognized the tone of their conversation, but he couldn't bring himself to confront her. Instead, he pretended to remain oblivious, allowing the situation to continue to fester. The next day, Jamal installed a tracking app on her phone. It felt like a betrayal of trust, but Jamal was desperate for answers. Over the following weeks, the app revealed that Brianna's movements didn't match her stories. She visited expensive hotels, private residences, and unfamiliar locations, none of which aligned with her claimed business meetings. Jamal felt a growing pit in his stomach as he saw the evidence stack up. Brianna's actions were clear. She was cheating. The tension in the house grew. Brianna, sensing Jamal's discomfort, accused him of being controlling and paranoid. "You've become obsessed with me. I can't breathe with you watching me all the time," she snapped one night. Brianna's dismissive attitude only confirmed Jamal's fears. She had no intention of being honest with him. Jamal turned to his best friend, Tyrone Phillips, for advice. "Man, you need to do something," Tyrone urged. "Get proof. You can't just keep letting her get away with this." Determined to confront Brianna with irrefutable evidence, Jamal decided to follow her. One evening, the tracking app showed her heading to a luxury hotel downtown, a location that had appeared in her movements before. Jamal, heart-pounding, parked nearby and waited. After a while, Brianna's car pulled into the valet area. She got out quickly, looking unconcerned as if this was routine. Jamal approached the hotel concierge, casually asking for directions before slipping him a $100 bill. "I'm looking for a friend who's staying here. Can you help me out?" The concierge nodded. "Room 324. Jamal's hands shook as he made his way to the elevator. On the third floor, he found the hallway and stopped outside room 324. His heart raced as he used his phone to access the hotel's security footage. There, on the screen, was Brianna entering the room with Darius, the nightclub promoter. The video was crystal clear. Brianna's body language was unmistakable, familiar and intimate. Jamal's hands trembled as the painful truth sank in. She had been seeing Darius behind his back, just like she had been seeing Marcus and others. Jamal's world crumbled as he watched the footage. Anger surged through him, mingled with a crushing sense of betrayal. He couldn't process the pain quickly enough. The woman he had married, the woman he had trusted, was living a double life. He left the hotel in a daze. Brianna's lies had been exposed, but now Jamal didn't know what to do. He was heartbroken, enraged, and shattered by the betrayal. The woman he thought he knew was a stranger, and the life he had envisioned with her was now in ruins. That night, Jamal decided he couldn't take the lies anymore. His world had been shattered by the evidence he had gathered. The betrayal was undeniable, and he was done pretending everything was fine. With his heart racing and anger boiling over, he confronted Brianna. He threw the evidence in front of her. Screenshots of texts, the hotel footage with Darius, and the tracking data that showed her lies. At first, Brianna tried to deny it, playing the role of the victim, but it quickly became. It was clear she had no intention of pretending anymore. She admitted she never loved Jamal, that their marriage had been nothing more than a stepping stone in her quest for wealth and status. Brianna had been using him for his career, his stability, and his connections, nothing more. Stunned and emotionally devastated, Jamal left their home that night. He didn't know where to go, but he couldn't stay in that house any longer. The place that had once felt like a sanctuary now felt like a prison. He headed to his best friend Tyrone's apartment, seeking solace. Tyrone, always the voice of reason, listened to Jamal's frustrations without judgment. "You can't let her get to you, man," Tyrone said, trying to offer advice. "You need to file for divorce and move on. She doesn't deserve you. She's playing you." But Jamal wasn't ready to listen. His mind wasn't on divorce. It was consumed by the anger of betrayal and the humiliation of being deceived. Brianna had shattered his trust in the most cruel way possible. The idea of walking away seemed weak. Jamal wasn't sure he could just let her go. The urge for revenge, to make her feel the same pain he was feeling, consumed him. Meanwhile, Brianna's lies were beginning to unravel. She had been seeing multiple men behind Jamal's back, including Marcus, Calvin, and Darius. Though they didn't know about each other, their suspicions about Brianna were growing. Marcus and Calvin, having never met, crossed paths one day in a coffee shop near Brianna's favorite boutique. The conversation between them quickly turned to Brianna. Neither man was happy with what they discovered. Brianna had led them both to believe they were her only partners, manipulating them for her own gain. When they confronted her about it, Brianna brushed off their concerns as jealousy and insecurity. She blamed them for being too serious and insisted that she was just having fun. Her dismissive attitude only deepened their frustration and anger. She had no intention of taking any responsibility for her actions. Darius, too, became suspicious when he learned about Marcus and Calvin's confrontation. He had been seeing Brianna for a while, but now he started to question whether his relationship with her was real or just another lie. Brianna had always been good at keeping her lies straight, but as the men started to talk, her carefully constructed world began to fall apart. Jamal, however, remained consumed by the betrayal. The pain of being played, of having his life and future turned upside down, was overwhelming. The idea of confronting Brianna again, of cutting ties and walking away, felt impossible. His emotions were raw, and the humiliation had sparked a darker side of him, a desire for retribution. The more he thought about it, the more the urge to hurt her, to make her understand the weight of her actions, began to take over. The pressure was mounting on Brianna from all sides. The men she had used were starting to question her loyalty, and Jamal, the one person who had trusted her the most, was on the verge of discovering everything. On the morning of May 12, 2016, Brianna's body was discovered in her car, parked in a remote area near Hillsborough River State Park, a quiet wooded location just outside Tampa. The car was off the road, partially obscured by trees, and it was clear that Brianna had not been expecting to die there. Her body showed signs of strangulation, and defensive wounds were evident on her hands, indicating that she had fought back against her attacker. Her phone, which might have contained crucial evidence, was found discarded in a nearby trash bin. The device had been wiped clean, further complicating the investigation. The discovery of Brianna's body sent shockwaves through Tampa, and the case was quickly assigned to Detective Carla Monroe of the Tampa Police Department. Detective Monroe was a seasoned investigator with a reputation for piecing together complex cases. As she reviewed the initial evidence, she quickly noted the suspicious circumstances surrounding Brianna's death. The fact that her phone had been tampered with, coupled with the location of the body, indicated that whoever was responsible for Brianna's death had taken steps to cover their tracks. The investigation quickly turned its focus on Jamal Turner. His volatile relationship with Brianna, the evidence of infidelity, and the anger he had shown in the days leading up to her death made him a prime suspect. Detective Monroe knew that Jamal had been emotionally devastated by the collapse of his marriage, and there was the possibility that his heartbreak had turned into something much darker. However, as Monroe and her team dug deeper, they discovered that Jamal wasn't the only person with a potential motive. Brianna had been involved with multiple men: Marcus Harris, a 35-year-old real estate agent; Calvin Reed, a 38-year-old personal trainer; and Darius Walker, a 32-year-old nightclub promoter. Each of these men had their own reasons to be upset with Brianna. Marcus, for example, had been financially supporting Brianna under the impression that she was a struggling entrepreneur. He had even made large loans to her, expecting to eventually see a return on his investment. When he learned that she had been deceiving him, he felt both betrayed and angry. Calvin, who had spent a considerable amount of time with Brianna, was equally furious after learning of her infidelities. His jealousy had grown over time, and it became clear that he, too, had been manipulated by Brianna, just as Jamal had. Darius, the nightclub promoter, had also become suspicious of Brianna's behavior, questioning her loyalty after learning of her involvement with other men. Detective Monroe continued her investigation. She found a series of clues that pointed to all three men. Surveillance footage revealed that Jamal had left his house the night Brianna was killed. This fact, coupled with witness statements, indicated that a black sedan similar to the one Marcus owned had been spotted near the crime scene around the time of the murder. Kelvin's gym records also showed that he had left earlier than usual that evening, and cell phone records indicated that Marcus had arranged to meet Brianna the night she died. The biggest breakthrough came when forensic evidence began to confirm the involvement of the men in Brianna's death. Monroe's team found DNA evidence under Brianna's fingernails, and forensic analysis showed that it matched Jamal's. This was a critical piece of evidence, but it didn't conclusively point to him as the sole perpetrator. Other physical evidence, such as fingerprints on the car door, was inconsistent with Jamal's, suggesting that someone else had also been involved. The case quickly became more complicated as Monroe pieced together the puzzle. Marcus' vehicle was tied to the scene, and surveillance footage from the hotel where Brianna had met Darius gave further credence to the theory that multiple men had been involved in the planning of Brianna's murder. Monroe believed that Brianna's death might have been the result of a combination of betrayal, jealousy, and manipulation. The men who had once been part of Brianna's web of lies were now central to her tragic end. Detective Carla Monroe's investigation into Brianna King's murder was methodical and precise. As the pieces of the case slowly began to fall into place, a clearer picture of the night of May 12, 2016, emerged. Forensic evidence, such as DNA under Brianna's fingernails, was a crucial breakthrough. The DNA was a match to Jamal Turner, but while this evidence strongly implicated him, it was not conclusive on its own. The next step for Monroe's team was to analyze additional physical evidence found at the crime scene. Fingerprints were lifted from Brianna's car, specifically on the door handle and steering wheel. These prints matched Marcus Harris, the real estate agent who had been one of Brianna's lovers. The presence of both Jamal and Marcus at the crime scene suggested a complex interaction between the two men that had led to Brianna's death. A critical piece of evidence came from a park ranger who reported seeing a vehicle matching Jamal's car at the entrance of Hillsborough River State Park around the estimated time of death. This corroborated the timeline and raised suspicions that Jamal had followed Brianna to the park, either to confront her or to try to stop the meeting with Marcus. The discovery added a key element to the case. Jamal was not just an accidental witness but had actively been part of the events leading up to Brianna's murder. When Marcus Harris was questioned, he initially denied any involvement in Brianna's death. He explained that he had met her at the park that night to confront her about the money he had lent her. Money she had promised to repay but had never returned. Marcus claimed their argument had become heated, but he denied being involved in her death, stating that their meeting had ended without violence. However, the evidence and timeline suggested otherwise, and it became clear that Marcus had not been entirely truthful in his account of the events. Jamal, on the other hand, eventually admitted to his role in the tragedy. During his interrogation, he confessed to following Brianna to the park after overhearing a phone call in which she arranged to meet Marcus. When he arrived, he found her and Marcus in the midst of a confrontation. In a fit of rage, Jamal confronted Brianna, and the situation escalated. According to Jamal, when Brianna dismissed him as irrelevant and mocked him for being naive, he lost control. He said he couldn't stop himself in that moment of emotional devastation and anger, and in a violent outburst, he strangled her. Jamal's confession was both heartbreaking and chilling. He admitted that he had been consumed by betrayal, humiliation, and anger, emotions he could not manage in the face of Brianna's cruelty. The murder was not premeditated, but the overwhelming emotional pressure had led him to make a deadly decision in a moment of rage. In the court proceedings that followed, Jamal was charged with second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the killing of Brianna King. Though he had acted impulsively, the courts found his actions unjustifiable and without excuse. The emotional turmoil and betrayal he had experienced did not absolve him of his responsibility for taking another life. Marcus Harris faced separate charges. While he was not charged with Brianna's murder, the investigation revealed the extent of his financial dealings with her. Marcus was charged with fraud in relation to the large sums of money he had lent Brianna, and he faced significant legal consequences for his role in her deceptive business practices. Calvin Reed and Darius Walker, though not directly involved in Brianna's death, testified in court about her manipulative behavior, providing crucial insights into her character. Both men described how Brianna had used them for her own gain, stringing them along while maintaining multiple relationships without their knowledge. The trial revealed a deeper layer of Brianna's deceitful nature, and the courtroom discussions painted a grim picture of a woman who had orchestrated her own destruction by manipulating the people around her. Her actions had caused not only her own demise but also the unraveling of the lives of those closest to her. Jamal's emotional collapse, Marcus's financial losses, and Calvin and Darius's feelings of betrayal were all consequences of Brianna's lies. Brianna King's death left behind a trail of broken lives, each shattered in different ways. For Jamal, his impulsive act of violence turned his life upside down. Sentenced to 25 years in prison, he would have years to reflect on the choices he made and the love he had once felt for his wife. Behind bars, Jamal wrestled with the magnitude of his actions, wondering if there had been another way to handle his pain, to escape the emotional trap Brianna had set for him. His life, once full of potential and promise, was now reduced to the confines of a prison cell.